Hey everyone, Rick here, and folks, welcome to a Battlefields of Mana battle report. I know we are currently in the midst of uploading unit profiles for every unit in Battlefields of Mana, but I just wanted to break up those uploads with something pretty sweet. We're defending the city, folks. Bandit Marauders are on their way. I mean, my God, look at this army. Of course, what I actually did was set up the defenders first, calculated how many points that was, and rounded it up, adding more units so we get a nice even number. This ended up being a 45-point Regal Guard army. The idea here is that there is a major city behind these walls, behind that gatehouse. And so they're defending it with these catapults. They have 4 catapults. Of course, at 6 points apiece, that ends up being 24 points. Then we also have 2 units of axemen at 3 points apiece, so that's 6 more points, 30 points. And then we have 2 3-point units of crossbowmen, a 4-point unit of men-at-arms, and a 5-point unit of heavy cavalry. So that's how we get to 45 points. Each wall section can be attacked by melee or range. It has 6 structure points, we'll call them. It has an armor of 3, so only 4s or better will hit, and it does get a defense roll. But as soon as 6 structure points have been removed, we will replace a wall section, or even the gatehouse if it gets taken out, with one of these crumbled wall sections. The goal here, typical Battlefields of Mana battle, is 6 rounds. The defenders have to hold off for 6 rounds. The attackers, the Bandit Marauders, have brought with them a mana shard cannon. More than likely, by the time we upload this, we have not actually gotten to the unit review of exactly what a mana shard cannon does, but here, in a nutshell, is what it looks like. Wherever it is positioned, whatever direction, we will be laying out one of these templates, and it essentially shoots in that direction, and it hits everything in a straight line. So you may be saying, well, right now, this right here is not looking that good. Thankfully, Regal Guard get to go first, so they may or may not stay in that column formation when this Mana Shard cannon ends up firing. Everything, every unit, every wall section in the way, no matter what way it's aimed, it could be aimed straight out that way. There are no cover bonuses against either the catapults nor the Mana Shard cannon. No defensive special abilities or modifiers are able to be used either, against either as well. These barricades, though, will shield the catapults and the crossbows against ranged attacks of a more mundane source like these bowmen. That's not just a cover save. We're calling that unblockable. Or unpenetrable. You cannot shoot the defenders through there. They can shoot, but they can't be hit. You'd have to go around to the side. So we're considering that blocking terrain. Except against the Mana Shard cannon, of course. So within 6 rounds, not only does a wall section have to be crumbled, but also a unit of Bandit Marauders has to move into the city, just past the crumbled wall. And since Bandit Marauders go second, that will be the end of the game. And of course, they can crumble multiple walls, and then they have options of which wall they want to try to get to. And the defenders, with their limited mobility in terms of their defensive units, have to decide where they want to position themselves. So it'll be very interesting. I've never done anything like this before, and we'll see how it ends up turning out. I'll do an after round review at the end of each of the 6 rounds. Who knows? We may not even get to 6 rounds. We'll see how it is, and we'll be back after round 1. All right, folks, end of round 1, and you can see a lot has happened in terms of movement, but not too terribly much has happened in terms of combat. Unbelievably, the arcane cannon, the mana shard cannon, took a wound. It misfired on its first shot. Well, let's back up because Regal Guard went first. The heavy cav basically charged straight ahead. You know, Regal Guard doesn't care how many figures they lose. They just need to hold out for 6 turns. They figured they'd charge up, get involved with some of these cav, or see what they wanted to do, because they were definitely charging up, threatening this cannon. They figured they'd probably end up taking a shot, but they went straight ahead. The men-at-arms were able to move up and slightly over, though that would not have been enough to avoid a mana shard cannon blast. Thankfully for them, it misfired unbelievably. Otherwise, the heavy cav would have taken a hit, the men-at-arms would have taken a hit, and then the gatehouse would have taken a hit. Now, no one else moved. Axemen on either side stayed put. Catapults were out of range to shoot anything, as were the crossbows. So then on Marauder turn, they basically moved everything up. In fact, they moved up kind of strategically so that even now on the next Regal Guard turn, the crossbows are not going to be able to shoot any of these guys. They're just out of range on both sides. And then they'll end up moving up a little bit further, though can't remember if I moved them up enough so that, yeah, in fact, on both sides, the Marauder Bowmen are within range of those stationary Axemen units. So it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing. These 2 Bowmen units stayed behind because they contributed shots against the heavy cavalry, which ended up being fantastic because that is why they have taken as many wounds as they have. They ended up taking 5 wounds, all due to shots from the Marauder Bowmen. Now, the Marauder Cavalry both moved up, reformed, and hit the flanks of the heavy cav. They got collision hits, I think 4 hits each, but unfortunately they failed to actually do any wounds. So the 5 wounds that the heavy cavalry have taken are all from the Marauder Bowmen, believe it or not. And again, the Mana Shard cannon misfired, so this is what we're looking like. Regal Guard have survived round 1, now on to round 2. Okay, folks, this is how we're looking at the end of round 2. So Regal Guard, men-at-arms, managed to get out of the way and move up. Next turn, they will be able to get into the flank of those Marauder Cav. Now, men-at-arms, I mean, they're saying, okay, so you guys are dancing around out of our range. Well, that's what we're going to do. So Axemen shuffled over there to get out of range of the Marauder Bowmen. Without them, because they could have just stood and shot, but because they did that little shuffle, the Marauder Bowmen did have to move to get back into range. Catapults all really did not do a whole lot. This catapult misfired. These 2 catapults diverted. They missed their target and went out into no man's land. In fact, I think they may actually have both hit shrapnel hits on someone. I think one hit like this unit. I think another one hit, maybe these 2 archer units may have actually taken shrapnel shots, but no wounds ended up taking place. And then this last one also misdirected. It had targeted this unit of archers, misdirected into this unit of Marauder Cav, just shrapnel hits though, not a full-on blast, killed 1 Marauder Cav. So the actual targets for these were that catapult on that unit of archers, this catapult on this Marauder Cav, the other catapult on that Marauder Cav, and the last catapult on those archers. So yeah, failures all around. We braced ourselves with the heavy cavalry, anticipating a shot from the Mana Shard cannon, which did not actually take place. It only channeled 2 mana, so instead of just firing a 2-shot, figuring that, maybe the horsemen could take out that unit without the need for this, and maybe we could redirect somewhere else, they just channeled 2 mana and are staying put for right now. they can add that to their next blast. These 2 archer units are still the MVPs. They shot a bunch into the heavy cav, killed some more heavy cav. In close combat, 1 marauder cav was killed by the heavy cav, and the heavy cavalry didn't take anything. In fact, I don't know why there's not a thing here. They did take another shot or another wound from somewhere. I can't remember where. But I remember them being down to only 3 HP left. And that is the state of the game right now. So here's the dead pile. 1 axeman, because that's what ended up happening. These marauder archers were able to shoot into those guys. These marauder archers into those guys, causing a wound, causing 2 wounds. That's the dead pile. 2/3 of the heavy cavalry and 1 axeman over here, 2 marauder cav. That's after 2 rounds of combat. So not a whole lot of death yet. Just, this situation here. Looking good for the Regal Guard so far. No wounds at all on any of the city gates. So I think we were playing it a little safe with the Marauders because they figured, eventually one of these gates, one of these walls will get torn down and we can then flood in there. They're going to have to start pushing in now that it may be up to the units themselves to break through if this Mana Shard cannon doesn't do it. All right, on to round 3. Hey everyone, Rick here. Bottom of round 3. The game is half over, and as you can see, there is a lot happening. The dead pile is piling up on both sides. Yes, that is the full heavy cav unit, and we have destroyed half of the gatehouse. So what happened here? Regal Guard got a little bold. Well, the heavy cav braced itself. The men-at-arms actually did move into combat. Axemen flanked the highwaymen there. Axemen moved into contact with the highwaymen there. Neither was a charge. It took both movement actions to do that. And then, so that's where that stayed. Crossbows, when the thugs were still within their front arc, were able to do a wound there. Took a chunk out of the thugs on that unit as well before it moved in. And the catapults did a little more this time. So 1 catapult actually may have taken more of the chunk of the thugs out than the archers did, because it also targeted the highwaymen. So the highwaymen took some damage, shrapnel hits on the thugs. What else? I think one of them is responsible for why this marauder cav is down. We actually took a hit ourselves. This catapult here misdirected straight up and hit that men-at-arms unit. I think just shrapnel hits, though, so not an entire, like an actual full-on attack, just shrapnel hits. Okay, so anyway. Then, shooting for Marauders, these archers targeted the heavy cav, which took a wound, but they were still alive, unbelievably. Then these archers turned, fired into the men-at-arms. These archers turned and moved up, used both their actions. They haven't fired yet, but now both of those archer units are in prime position to target the men-at-arms. But, of course, the story of the day was the Mana Shard cannon fired 8 mana worth of shots, obliterated the last heavy cav, straight up the line into the gatehouse, dealing half of the damage to it. So next turn, more than likely, Regal Guard's going to have to find some way, maybe one of the crossbow units, pull it back to get it somewhere over there, because they assume the gatehouse is going to be a target, and then probably one of the cav units is going to go for it. But over here, this lowly unit of skirmishers actually moved up, is within range now of a chunk of the wall over there. They're in the woods. They're going to be firing at that piece and try to get over there as well. So yeah, it's pretty insane. But we are now, and then a couple close combats. So this whole thing happened over here. This whole thing happened over here. And yeah, we are now moving into round 4. So we'll be back at the end of round 4. Okay, folks, bottom of round 4. As you can see, there's a big clearing in the middle. Oh my gosh. Regal Guard braced with those axemen, braced with those former axemen, uh, attacked with the men-at-arms, moved these crossbows out, not far enough to get in the center of this shooting range, but out so that they could intercept anyone from the Marauders who tried to make a beeline over there. We had some catapult success. I think we targeted with 1, 2, maybe even a third, did we? I can't remember, but either way, these Marauder Cav that used to be here were obliterated. Then we targeted highwaymen over here, but it diverted out, so only one of the 4 catapults again was effective. So I think that was pretty much it for Regal Guard. So the Marauders channeled 6, blasted it straight. Actually, they shifted over. They shifted over a bit to line up here, get the crossbows, get the catapult, get 2 sections of wall. They really hurt their own Marauder Cav, but this unit of Marauder Archers, this unit of Marauder Archers converged on those men-at-arms and destroyed them. So it was just this Marauder Cav in the way. Manashard Cannon plowed through them, did a wound to the crossbows, did 4 wounds to the catapult, did 4 wounds to that section of wall, did 2 wounds to the gatehouse. So the gatehouse and that section of wall are barely hanging on with a wound and 2 wounds apiece. These skirmishers alone did 4 wounds to that section of wall. There's just not enough manpower in the Regal Guard left to run up and try to protect the sections of wall, unfortunately. I think that's pretty much it. The highwaymen here just absolutely obliterated those axemen. Trading blows here between these 2 units and those axemen. And yeah, so here is the dead pile now for the Marauders, and the dead are all back behind the wall for the Regal Guard. And we are now moving in to round 5. Only 2 rounds left. Can the Marauders pull it off? Can the Regal Guard hold on? All right, folks, bottom of round 5. And unfortunately, I think it is over for the Marauders unless I can come up with something clever in the final round, 6th round, next round. Because what ended up happening was, and I mean, it's tough to do the whole Regal Guard phase and then the whole Marauder phase and then try to remember what I did in the Regal Guard phase. But the crossbowmen, I believe, were able to eliminate that last Marauder Cav, which is a big deal because if he was still around, he may have been able to shoot up and get through a gap in the wall. But I'm sure there were some blows traded over here. The catapults did fantastic. This catapult, I think went off course and didn't do anything, but these 2 center catapults targeted that group of skirmishers, completely wiped them out. This one over here, honestly, I can't remember what it did. Cannot remember. But either way, in the Marauder phase, these highwaymen broke away from there, moved up to the wall, anticipating that that wall would be gone. We moved up with the archers here, but so they can shoot at that wall section next turn, but of course movement happens before shooting. So unfortunately it looks like that is it. The Manashard Cannon turned to fire. It would have hit its own archers. It would have just barely missed those the thugs, moved right up through here, would have hit this catapult and these 2 wall sections, hopefully destroying that wall section so those highwaymen could move through their next turn. The Manashard Cannon misfired. That is the 2nd time this game, in five rounds, it misfired twice. There's only one misfire icon on a 6-sided die. 1 in 6 chance of misfiring. So maybe once in the entire game, understandable. Twice, that's just bad luck. I mean, that Mana Shard cannon could have blown that wall to smithereens, but nope. Everyone made a mad dash. It is all hands on deck. Everyone moved up as far as they could, trying to get over here, but it's just in vain. What I was almost thinking was if these archers could have shot at that wall section for those highwaymen, and then the Mana Shard cannon could have shot up through here again, where there were some units here possible, but of course the Regal Guard probably would have engaged them to stop them from moving up. So really it was all about over here. Maybe these axemen could have broken away and still survived enough to get over there, but yeah, that was pretty much it. But anyway, so we'll find out in just a second what happens at the end of round 6 and the end of the game. Did the Regal Guard pull it out? All right, folks, this is the end of round 6. The game is over. My God, it was scorched earth. I mean, all hands on deck. Look, there are 3 blasted holes in the wall. Gatehouse gone. What even happened? So Regal Guard phase, both crossbow units turned, both fired at halberdiers, doing a lot of wounds. I can't remember if it was the crossbows that finished. No, the crossbows did a lot of wounds to them, but did not finish them off. Catapults. What the hell did the catapults do? Catapults targeted this unit of Marauder archers, actually, a couple direct hits, and only managed to do like 4 wounds. It was insane. First catapult targeted this unit, I believe, and it misfired and redirected up this way. And I was afraid that would have been it. If that would have cracked one of these walls and destroyed it, then on the Marauders' turn, they could have moved right through there. But thankfully, it just hit like somewhere in the ground. And then I think that was pretty much it for the catapults. And then this axeman broke away from those thugs, losing an axeman in the process, but charged into the archers so that they wouldn't be able to just freely just shoot at that wall section. But he knew that he was going to be in big trouble doing that. In fact, actually, I forgot to do they would have gotten multiple shots in. That axeman's probably dead. 3s or better. But these are all -1 from... so actually, it was just a pair of 3s. Oh, and this Marauder die. Yep, he would have been dead. He blocked one of the hits, but he would have taken a wound, and a Marauder die would have killed him. So in fact, he would not have stopped them from shooting. He would actually just have been dead. So let's get him out of there. You always can't forget the free volley. Technically, in the game, if you do forget something like that, you don't, since it's not a mandatory thing to do, it's just kind of, if you remember to do it, you can do it. But if you do forget, it's not like you are missing an integral rule, because, you know, it's just one of those things where you should remember to do it if you want to take advantage of that. But anyways, that didn't mean anything anyway. They did, with what was left, break away from the axemen, fired at the wall section. There was still... they actually took out that wall section as was anyway. So that wall section was... No, actually, did they take that out? Why can't I remember? I think there was still 1 wound on that wall section. These 2 Marauder halberdiers charged into the wall, and their attack, I believe, is what ended up destroying the wall. Either way, you know, movement is the first thing you do in a turn. So it doesn't matter if they shot the wall, if they charged and close combated the wall, it was over. The game was already over. But the Mana Shard cannon blasted straight up, doing wounds to crossbows, doing wounds to their own archers. There were 2 halberdiers left that got destroyed. They destroyed a catapult that was there. The Mana Shard cannon just completely drove this huge, you can just imagine, over those units, destroyed the halberdiers, destroyed the catapult, destroyed those 2 sections of walls. If we played one more turn, boom, there you go. These archers easily make it through there. Obviously, those 2 make it through there. I almost considered, because technically they did charge into that wall section. So once the wall section was destroyed, after you destroy an opponent, you get a free reform. What if they chose to reform like this? And then technically, is he then in the wall? I don't know. Is that kind of cheesy? I can't believe it came down to being this close. Because that's it, folks. I mean, by the rules, I'm 90% sure the Regal Guard won. After 6 rounds, no Marauders got through the wall. If you count this reform cheesy business that happened right at the end of the game, that was the only close combat in the last turn of the game, was those 2 halberdiers against that section of wall, destroyed that section of wall, and if they reform and they turn that way, then that guy is technically on the wall piece. But I mean, it's crazy to think that I've never done a scenario like this before, so I didn't know how balanced it would be. 4 catapults, and overall the catapults did maybe, I want to say maybe average. I almost want to say below average, but probably about average. But yeah, it's just insane to think how this looks now, where we started. But no one has moved through the wall. They just are kind of up on the wall. So in all honesty, I'm going to give it to the Regal Guard. They managed somehow to hold off that whole, look at all the Marauders they destroyed. I probably just didn't play the Marauders smart enough. I mean, I sacrificed basically those 2 cav units early on when I probably should have spread them out, because they would have been fast. That's what we needed in that last turn, was something fast. And also should have been targeting the wall section. This Mana Shard cannon misfired on 2 occasions, and that really sucked. I should have not put all my eggs in one basket there. Should have been targeting the wall with other units as well. So probably misplayed them, but I probably misplayed the Regal Guard too. But I don't know. I felt like I played them pretty good. I used the few units that they did have to bog down the oncoming Marauders, and just kept trying to use those catapults as effectively as possible. In the end, that's how it looks. I'm declaring Regal Guard victory. That's a tough one, but reforming into the wall rubble is not the same as using a move action to move through the wall. The game should end in the movement phase, not due to a reform in the close combat phase. So I am saying Regal Guard victory here. All right, folks, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you found this as interesting as I did, and until next time.